Oh yeah, here is yeah, this is real. It's wild that Candace is the only right wing figure I've seen posting in a way where she seems genuinely devastated to lose Charlie as a friend. Low key, this is not even a joke. You know I don't like Candace Owens. You know I think she's a bad person. You know I think she's a grifter. But I saw this compy and I was like, God damn, bro, this is what real pain looks like. Okay, straight up. Every other Republican in media was like salivating at the prospect of taking over the throne. You know what I mean? They were like, oh, I'll be the next Charlie Kirk. It's going to be awesome. Whereas she was just like, this low key, some work husband shit. You know what I mean? Like some work wife shit right here. This is crazy.
God is in the details. You don't understand like the divinity of him tweeting that. Like,
living in that
Charlie
21st century. Like, there's something mean to it.
I will trust in Jesus. And we can make him about to have you some
Place like murder.
If it reads like addiction, if it reads like disease, he's the one who frees the prisoner. He's the healer of all things. If it reads like depression, if it reads broken home.
I'm not gonna lie, this also low-key humanized both of them, which is crazy. But it's just like they were just having fun, dude. They were just, I mean, what they were doing when they were roaming the country was still very bad. Okay, make no mistake, they were running around talking the same shit that they've been talking, right? But like, I guess the standard for like humanity is so low, like human emotion, showcasing real human emotion is so low online that like out of all the right wingers I've seen expressing like rage, performative rage in most circumstances, like Candace Owens literally was like seemingly crying real tears for this man, which is crazy because of like what he has said about black women in particular is just makes it a lot weirder. But of course, Candace Owens herself has basically always played that role as a right wing actor, you know, putting a black face on white supremacy. So
He's the one who holds your sorrow. He won't leave you here alone. My eyes, there's a land across, fixing into our favorites.
did they disagree on Israel? Was that the only issue? I mean, these guys are all, I don't know if they're like, do I think Candace Owens went from being an anti-Trump person who successfully sued the Connecticut Board of Education for being victim to an anti-black hate crime when she was in high school that led her to develop an eating disorder, to being one of Trump's biggest boosters and being one of the most vicious anti-black voices on the conservative sphere, basically overnight after she was plucked by first David Horowitz and then Ben Shapiro, and in the process Charlie Kirk as well, getting boosted into becoming a prominent fixture of Republican commentary, conservative reactionary beliefs. Do I believe that any of that is genuine? I don't know. I don't really care at this point because like I just value their output, right? And their output is just awful. These are people that these are people whose careers exploded alongside mine, obviously through very different, through a very different process. Like they were boosted by pre-existing networks of influence on the right, as opposed to me just like, I guess, getting the nepotism boost initially from the Young Turks, but then also finding prominence on my own. after that. But like, I don't know. This is just like this, like what their true beliefs are, I will never know, most likely. But it also doesn't matter, because if you're a political commentator, your output is what matters. Will you ever stop debating for clicks and clips and look for middle ground? First of all, I don't even fucking debate that much, dumbass. You're arguing with a person that you've built up on your mind. Like, that's not me. Oh, you said, will we ever stop debating for clicks and clips and look for middle ground? No, the middle ground shit is bullshit. What do you mean middle ground? Okay. One side says we need to deport all Mexicans. The other side says we need to deport 0 Mexicans. What's the middle ground? 50% Mexicans deported? Middle ground is a pure fantasy for a lot of people that don't recognize that the Overton window keeps swinging wildly in the direction of the right, because it's always dumbass libtards who are like, let's find a middle ground. Let's find a middle ground. Some things you won't compromise on. Okay, how many babies should we kill in Gaza? How many children should we kill in Gaza? Is there a middle ground? Is there an acceptable middle ground? Trying to find a middle ground as though this is trying to find bipartisan compromise for purely the sake of bipartisanship alone is what got us into this mess to begin with. Just have your worldview, have your opinions, and fight for them like hell. That's it. Can you explain the potential trans roommate thing? We don't know enough yet, but it seems like one of the suspects' roommates was trans, and she's been cooperating with the authorities ever since she found out. Oh yeah, this was a great post. I did see this. My grandfather used to say Magda Goebbels made a great strudel, and I never knew what it meant until after he died. My grandmother explained some magazine did a fluff interview with Magda Goebbels a few years before World War II that included her strudel recipe, and my grandfather, who hated the Nazis with the passion of 10,000 sons, thought it was an example of the media sanitizing evil people, and he would use the phrase when someone asked him to overlook a bad person doing bad things and focus on the good. Like, this isn't like DC versus Marvel, you know, agree to disagree. There are plenty of things where you can find some kind of middle ground, okay? But there are plenty of issues where I think if you were to honestly think about it, you just would not be in agreement with a middle ground. The example I gave you is apt for you to comprehend. Right? There is something that you care about, that you understand, something that pertains to your humanity, okay? Not just the way you see the world, but like literally who you are as a person, right? That you obviously would be a little uncomfortable with if people were just discussing whether or not it was valid or not. And the reality of the matter is, for a lot of people, a lot of white people especially, whiteness is such a powerful force, a powerful socio-political construct that they just like they never see themselves in that situation. It's rarely ever discussed in those terms. And also, there's never really been a historic equivalent in terms of like taking away white people's rights on the virtue of whiteness. Not to say that this is a good thing anyway. I'm not saying that, but that just simply has not existed. And that's precisely the reason why a lot of people are much more comfortable talking about another man's timeline for justice. You know? If you don't truly take issue with those sorts of conversations, that just simply means you recognize that it doesn't impact you in the same way that it does for others. Okay, rebuke your whiteness. Okay, shut the fuck up. Shooter was a big JBP fan. No, it wasn't the shooter. The trans lover Reddit account posted on trans related topics, but also a bunch of right wing subs, including Jordan Peterson and 4chan Green Text. No, that wasn't. Lancelot, from what I understand, is not the shooter's account, but it's actually the roommate's account, right? Yeah. This is the shooter's roommate, shooter's trans roommate. Yeah, bunch of I think a bunch of right-wing subs, including Jordan Peterson, 4chan Green Text, talks about how he was not political but defensive of America and how he was against political party boxes and comment on destroying woke kids. I think I'm gonna be honest. First of all, we don't I think the preferred pronouns are she. Okay. And secondly, I mean, looking at the profile a little bit, looking at the profile of the trans roommate, the allegedly trans roommate of the shooter, of the alleged shooter, they kind of come across like they're like a somewhat political shit poster, but they post on like political compass memes. Like Green Text Anon is on the BBC. Literally was 85 in my room every summer where I'm at. Just drink water and wear summer clothes. You aren't actively in the sun. It's not hot. But political compass memes means like this person is also brain rotted by politics, but in usually like a neoliberal direction. Yeah, that would make sense. I guess I don't see that because I'm American and not much into national, let alone international politics. It's just weird for most of us who don't really care either way. I have no opinion of Italians, and then I go on the internet and get immediately stereotyped, which I'm sure happens to you also. It's one of those situations where I could care less for America. And this is also from like 5 years ago. So their political ideology might have changed as well in time. People need to stop putting themselves in boxes because the political parties don't care about any of their people. They just want their money. Once again, doesn't necessarily mean that this person is a Jordan Peterson fan. You know, and mostly just like I think people are reading into it and they're trying to say that this person was like right wing or something, which, you know, could be the case, but political compass memes for the most part is like the most politically oriented sub. Levegar went through the accounts and thought it was pretty conclusive that the roommate is trans. Yeah. Also, once again, this person, this is their own personal political opinion. It could have changed over the course of 5 years. And as far as we know, they are not even remotely involved in any way, shape, or form with the actual shooter's actions. Okay? So there's that aspect of the story as well. Tyler splits a 3-bedroom apartment with roommates. One guy who desperately wants to be pro gaming streamer and may be trans identifying. I think they might be trans. I from what I understand, not maybe identifying as trans. That person was cooperative with the police. But this roommate Lance was also the one who claimed to have Discord messaged him Tyler about the shooting. Discord proved that he did not. She did not. There's no indication on social media for Lance or Tyler that they're in a relationship. This is before the FBI confirmed it. Yeah, there is. But this person wasn't a trans DIY subreddit. No, I think the roommate might be. The roommate, I believe the roommate is trans. It's not just the Snapchat filter. Things have, there's been more information that's come out since then. But also, once again, them being trans has nothing to do with anything. It's like saying, okay, think about it this way. He had a black roommate. So what? He had a Hispanic roommate. So what? Does that change anything? No. If it doesn't change anything, then having a trans roommate doesn't change anything either. Do you understand? Also, there's contradictory information as far as whether this person still lived with their parents or whether this person lived with their roommates, because there's been a good deal of a back and forth as well. That's what I'm saying. Why does the roommate keep coming up other than to feed into their narratives to shift blame? I guess if I'm going to be as charitable as possible, We are trying to identify what took place in terms of this person's like political journey and potential radicalization. And Charlie Kirk was an incredibly transphobic individual. And the most charitable interpretation of this is that did the shooter radicalize? And by radicalize, I mean develop empathy for trans people, but then radicalize beyond that point to take action in such a violent way? That's the question that I think, in the most charitable estimation, that's what people are trying to address. Of course, the real reason why they're doing that is so that they can somehow tie this political violence back to trans people in any way, shape, or form that they can. The dumbest fucking version of this would basically be if they were like, the shooter was around a trans person at one point in their lives, so who could say who radicalized them? You know what I mean? If you accidentally develop empathy for trans people, then you aren't a groyper anymore. You're turning into a normie. No. Wait, what? Literally, I was impossible for a right-wing groyper meme doomer to have a black and trans roommate. None of this guy makes sense. Yes, it changes a lot, actually. It means that groypers are ideologically nothing. No, you have established that they are. I'm saying we still have a lot more investigation to do to conclusively tell you what this person's political leanings are. $2,000 hours on Sea of Thieves and 400 hours on Helldivers is what Tyler had on his Steam account. Anyway. I personally know a gay groper that went to January 6th. The idea that whether or not they had a trans roommate matters in this equation is ridiculous, as you've said. No, of course. Anyway, I have to go because I have to do the podcast because we're doing it tonight as opposed to Thursday night. So everyone's coming over right now. So I got to go. I got to leave you on that note. But be safe. Be kind to one another. And yeah, that'll be all. That'll be all for tonight.